All right.
Still not seeing anything.
Me either, bro.
Oh,
I'm
there
not
you
sure.
go. Sorry.
There. Now we're live.
There we go.
Hey, we're live. Welcome everybody to Tone Deep with Jonathan and Sean.
Episode 1.
Brought to you from your mom's house.
Your mom's house.
Yes, it's the only place to live stream. So we are still working out kinks, full disclosure, and we will get it right eventually. Jonathan's guitar was not agreeing with being played via the interface.
As it never does.
Yeah, but we will get it soon. Um, Jonathan, thoughts on Chibson?
I don't like them.
Don't like him.
Don't like 'em.
Reasons.
Well, Epiphone exists, doesn't it?
Epiphone does exist.
That's the reason. And to me, it's just like, from what I understand, the Chibsons are made in the same factory as Epiphone. So it's like, why don't you just buy the Epiphone? Is my thing. Like, if they made a Chibson version of this, I can't imagine that it would be any better, if better at all, than this one. I just don't see it.
Agreed. So I am part of a Facebook group called like Music Club or something like that, and it's basically like a link to a Discord, and it has like I've never bought one, but there's a whole mess of chips and stuff, Chinese Fender, like fake Fender. They have everything, and it looks great on the pictures. I don't necessarily besmirch anybody for buying one.
Oh yeah.
But to me, like yours is a SG copy, so is this here Harley Benton.
Right.
And the best argument I've heard personally is have the balls to put your own company's name on the headstock. I mean, like this headstock is perfectly fine. It's not quite the open book. It's enough different to avoid lawsuits. Harley Benton is still selling it. This is a very inexpensive. I think I paid like $205 for this thing.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know,
And I mean, and the thing even with Epiphone is a couple things. So you said, this is an SG copy. You're right, but it is legally called an SG. It can be called an SG. So
right?
now I think Yamaha did something called the SG something or other, like way back, and apparently those are really cool too. But yeah, like even with Epiphone, like they're doing the Kalamazoo headstock on the Inspired by line. Um, they've done the Inspired by Gibson custom with the actual open book headstock, which I have my own things about that. But
Sure.
I'm like, when this exists, or you have other proper solutions to it, why even bother with the Chipson? Again, it's like you said, I don't dog anybody for buying one.
Yeah.
You know, regardless of what your reason is, unless you're reselling them as the real thing and you're a
That's
scumbag.
that's where
That's
my problem
that's
lies.
the big thing. Yeah, if you
Yeah.
just want it to like look cool or say whatever you want to say, fine.
Or
That's
a
your
mod
thing.
project, mod
Mod projects, yeah.
dude, the videos where I mod a Chipson on YouTube, they slay. It's like
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
1,500, it's 15,000 views every single time. Like everybody loves a good Chipson mod video. Um, but I mean, mostly I agree with you. I will uh counter only that Epiphone has raised its prices a lot. Now everybody has, so this isn't like new to the world about how eggs are like $32 for the 60 pack these days, but like it's not new that everything costs a bit more. And there is some, you could say that hopefully your money's going towards better working conditions for people in those factories and things like that. But I I do have a problem with the amount that they're charging for most of the new Epiphones. You can still get a Firebird for 650. You can still get a Les Paul for 500. Like they do still have the budget options. The new line is really expensive, and to me that just pushes me towards Harley Benton. Like that,
It
you
pushes
know,
you back. Yeah.
if I need to like get if I have to get a guitar, Harley Benton has this, Toman has this wide range of these cheaper. Like if I have to go cheaper than Epiphone, I can, and I can get something that's a good quality. I don't need to buy a Chibson. So it is interesting that there is such a huge market for those. Um, what do you think? The current state of like international trade, and I don't want to get political at all. That's not ever what we're going to do on this, but the current state of international trade will do to the Chibson market.
That is a good question. It really is. Um, I think it'll, to some degree, it may be harder to get them past customs, maybe,
Sure, sure.
just because with the state, the way that things are. Again, not getting political.
Yep.
It's just the way that it is. Everything kind of coming from overseas is going to be, or even really just from anywhere that's not USA made, is going to be scrutinized more, or it's going to be looked at more. So to see a Gibson come from China somewhere, it's like that's not, you can't do that. And I mean, then you have your maybe weird cases where someone really did buy an authentic Gibson from China and
Like a
Trogley,
Trogley, like if Trogley
yeah, like
bought
a
one from
Trogley.
a
I mean that's a gray area, and I don't know. I don't think that that's happening very often. But I mean,
No,
yeah,
I think
I think
most of that's coming from Japan. And I think
yeah,
because of
absolutely.
Japan's standing in the guitar market, like almost anybody who knows anything about guitars knows that they make great ones in Japan.
Hmm.
I think that won't be flagged nearly as much. So somebody like Trogley who buys Fenders from the Japan shops and stuff, like Japanese shops, like that probably won't raise red flags. But yeah, definitely guitars sized packages coming from China probably will get looked at a couple of times, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, even I imagine even people buying Harley Bentons, because I mean, like the ship. I remember back when Harley Benton was kind of coming into the scope of like the YouTube realm and everything, and people were kind of starting to discover them over here.
Yeah.
I've bought a total of one Harley Benton in my day.
Hmm.
It was the what was it, the TE?
Yeah, the 52.
I think it was whichever one was that black paisley one.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think that was either the 52, something like that. But either way, great guitar. But I remember I was so upset that I had to go to the post office myself and pay an extra $20 in customs fees.
Oh, really?
Right. Yeah.
Oh,
So they
wow.
wouldn't release it to me because it was like, oh, you got to pay the customs fees. That's my first overseas experience in something like that.
Now,
But
Harley
the
Benton
ship,
you can buy their stuff on Reverb. They have a Reverb shop,
yep.
and it is marked up from the Toman prices. But I actually ran the numbers on shipping, uh, and you will actually pay less, and it's free shipping from Connecticut. So they
Right.
have. I feel like a company like Harley Benton versus like say any kind of like Chibson warehouse or anything like that, like they've taken all the steps to as like make this the most legitimate budget brand that has existed since Squire or Epiphone. So to
Yeah,
me,
absolutely agree.
like as far as budget brands goes, like if you want a Brian May style guitar, don't buy a Chibson. Like it's $400 for the Harley Benton one. Like just buy that.
Well, I mean, but I can tell you the two things that obviously affect that. It's
Yeah.
country of origin, that is an endless debate,
Yep.
and it's that.
Yeah.
And the name on
100%.
the headstock.
I
And
know.
that's 100% all it is. And that is why really Chipsons exist, is because people care too much about what's on the headstock and what it looks like, I guess.
We are a community of snobs in that way, are we not?
We are. We
I
are. It's a
I've
good and a
been
bad thing.
I've been like really impressed with the boutique like flood of boutique builders lately. There's like what is it called? Rock and Roll Relics. Holy
Yeah,
crap, dude.
I've heard of them.
I freaking am gassing for one of those so bad. Like they're really cool and they're expensive. But
Oh
if you
yeah.
want options that aren't Gibbs that have a new headstock shape, a different, Novo, like with Revolta and the like, and Fano. And it's just like there's so many options. We are in the golden age of guitar playing. There is zero reason to buy a Chibson. Um,
Right. Now,
Ooh, Steve Cassidy. What's up, buddy?
I will
Have
say
you?
this. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, you're okay. Go ahead.
So I think there might be a little bit of a delay there.
Yeah.
I will say this, if I can remember what I was going to say. Oh, being in the golden age of like cheap gear, there are still stinkers.
Yeah,
There are.
100%.
One of them, I don't know if I should name it on stream or not, but I did a video on one of those sponsored video, and it wasn't good, and I wasn't shy about telling you that. But again, something like that, people kind of know at this point. Those $70 guitars probably are not. They're not worth it,
Yeah,
even
yeah,
in bot platforms.
right. Because
That's just
if the wood, I so like I've done a couple of like those DIY kit guitars over the years, and they're fine, they're fun, and they're we were talking yesterday, like I'm sentimental about all my guitars, so I look like that Flying V over there. You know what I didn't do? I didn't check the neck angle when I glued it up. And so now I kind of have to keep the action a little higher than I'd like because it's, the wrong angle basically. But like the wood is fine. And but if your wood is not good, if the wood in the guitar is not good or the construction is bad, it's firewood. Like it don't matter what
exactly.
pickups you put in it or anything. So yeah, I just think it's interesting. That Robert Baker video was great. Like he had some of the most tenured guitarists of all time in that video, which is just crazy.
Yeah.
You got like Bukovac and Bonamassa and Tom Murphy, and like that was a crazy video just for the personnel involved. But it was cool to see them take it apart and show you what
And I do like the fact, considering who was all in the room, that they were all. And Robert Baker even made the point in the video. He's like, yeah, we're gonna cut this thing up, we're gonna destroy it, but everybody in the video said the same thing. Like, it's still a guitar, it's still an instrument that somebody could make, music on. Because then you go back and look at it, it's like, yeah, that's a really good point. Guitar at this point. Look at Slash. I mean, he recorded Appetite for Destruction with a Gibson copy. It wasn't a Gibson at all. That's pretty well known from guitar players, but
yeah.
so
Yeah, I mean, just like getting a what's the one I've been seeing, uh getting a Les Paul copy that's been like sort of reshaped a little. The headstock's been adjusted, like, but you're looking at a 24 and 3/4 scale with an arch top and a mahogany body and all of that stuff.
yeah,
Um, it there's options. Like there's so many options to like
so many.
avoid, or even shoot the fireflies. Those things are cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, Steve. I noticed I did have two audio sources running, so I appreciate you watching my back, brother. I don't know if you've checked out Steve's guitar channel before, Jonathan, but it's awesome. He's a fellow Scotsman. Well, I'm technically a shipwreck Scot. I'm an Irishman, but lots of McCartneys over in Scotland, I'm sure. But he does great stuff. He's a Squire boy. He loves Squire. He loves the what are those, Steve, that you really enjoy? The Starcasters. And
Really?
yeah, he does great videos with his Starcasters. They sound awesome, and I've been really loving being a part of his community he's got over there too. So
I think the strangest Starcaster of all the ones that I've seen is probably the one that was like the active pickup one. That one just didn't make any sense to me.
That's
It
kind of
looked really
wild.
cool. Yeah. I think it was like what's that series that they do? what was it? Not the it was not the modern. I can't remember. Either way, but they they had like more modern specs on it, and I think that kind of fell in with because they had the classic vibe. I think they had an Affinity one. Realistically, the Starcasters just kind of aren't for me. But then again, I'm still trying to find my foot in like the semi hollow kind of realm.
I'm the same. And I even talked with Steve maybe last week or the week before, where it's like when I look at a Starcaster and I see like him playing it, or I hear, oh, the contemporary active, that's what it's called.
Contemporary, that's the
Yeah.
yeah.
And when I look at them, I'm like, yeah. And then I go to a Guitar Center or something and I play one and I cannot connect with it. Not that it sounds
Yeah.
bad or plays bad or anything. I just can't like get it doesn't it's like hugging somebody awkwardly, like it doesn't fit,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like I can't cuddle it, you know. But I
Yeah.
do love them. Like they look awesome, they look super cool.
And I'll tell you, speaking of that, so that's my first semi hollow right there, and it's the first one that I've ever picked up and actually like loved.
Nice.
It's a Sheraton. So
Yeah, those are cool. I looked at
yeah,
buying one of those Emily Wolf model Sheratons for a long time. I wanted one of those. They were
yeah,
super cool.
yeah. And like the thing with me is, because obviously like I do Epiphone Gibson. That's kind of
Yeah.
where I'm comfortable. That Sheraton is the best semi hollow I've ever tried, and it's nothing, no signature kind of thing. It's just like a random, you
Off
know,
the shelf.
off the shelf stock, and it's like it is so good. And I know a lot of people might look at it and be like, "Well, it's 335." It's like I've played Gibson 335s that I don't care for, Epiphone 335s, 339s, all of that,
Yeah.
and I just can't get onto it. But then there's something about that. And it was one of those just like random used like, oh, I'm just gonna try it. I was getting kind of bored. Just here's another S type kind of thing,
Yeah.
and it's great. So it's like I don't know. Semi hollows are weird, but then
It's
again, I've
I
always
think
had
there's
SGs
one there's
too.
like a semi hollow for everybody. Like there's one
Oh,
out
there
there
is.
that will fit me perfect that I will love, but I haven't found her yet. So eventually
Mm-hmm.
we'll link
Keep
up.
looking.
Yep.
Yeah, keep.
Just want to mention my old man's in the chat today. Um
Hello,
he's
man.
tuning in from Bug Tussle Studios. So that's my dad there. Um
Bug Tussle Studios.
yeah, he's out in West Virginia, man. He's like super
Ah,
he's so they call it Bug Tussle, you know.
Bug Tussle. It's
um
very much in tune with the area.
oh yeah. Yep. Yep, that's where we're from, out there in West Virginia.
Is that where you're from for real?
No, I was
Oh,
I was born in Oregon,
oh, okay, okay.
and so I evaded the West Virginia accent, but I can emulate it because it's in my blood, so
Right,
I'm
it's
able
somewhere.
to. Um, anyway, so yeah, I was just it was kind of a hot topic. It got reignited. Everybody has like super, really like divided opinions on the Chibson thing, and I find myself sort of like, well, if you're not reselling it, I thought Robert's video was great because if anybody ever, there are people who will try to resell it, and
Yeah.
it gave people out there some tools, the average Joe, some tools to like look for these things, and you could spot a fake so that you don't pay $1,500 for a non Gibson. But
But you may have noticed too, Bonamassa in that video, they were looking at the serial number and they were kind of, I think it was the serial number, and they were looking at like, oh yeah, this looks right. But he had said something to, I believe it was Robert Baker, about
Mhm.
like, yeah, there's something about like the 6 or the 9 or something. But he said, but I'll tell you that when all the mics are off and all the cameras are off.
Right, they
They
didn't
were
let
trying
go of
not to give.
everything.
They didn't let go of everything because they want little things to give it away, which I thought was really smart. I
Yeah,
really appreciated that.
yeah,
Someone
I
like
mean,
Bonamassa's gonna be thinking that way.
mhm. Dude, how is Joey B so hated? He's like the Nickelback of blues music.
I have no idea because I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't really know who Joey B is.
Joe Bonamassa.
Oh, Joe. Oh, I thought you
Yeah.
meant like Joey B.
No, it's just
Someone else.
we're on
You
a
can see
I
my
got
light shoot
nicknames
over
for
my
him.
head against.
Yeah,
I
we know
gotcha.
each other like
Yeah,
that.
no, no. I think a lot of that stemmed from, I don't know. I know he got a lot of flack for that "don't use pedals" comment that maybe got taken out of proportion thing that
Yeah.
he did. But I don't know. Maybe because he's so like he's got like thousands of guitars, probably literally thousands of guitars. So like he's the hoarder of the vintage market.
Sure, sure. Is
Like
it a
they think he's some forest.
personality thing where he kind of strikes you like John Mayer, where like John
Uh,
Mayer, everybody loves him except for the people that don't, and they hate him. And
yeah,
it's like a maybe I mean he's a little more enigmatic in his personality, but Joe Joe can come off he's weird. He's like arrogant and humble at the exact same time. And I
yeah,
feel like maybe that could create a rub, but I've just never, it's the same thing with like Nickelback. Like, dude, have you listened to Dark Horse?
right.
That album
Because
is like 10 straight bangers, dude. You're not
yeah,
stopping the
so
entire time.
so that yeah, so I think he's become such a pivotal person in the world of guitar that it's just like
Gonna
you see,
happen.
yeah, you kind of like you see a Les Paul, and a lot of times you can think, oh, Joe Bonamassa's got one of those, or like an SG, but then he goes Fender, all that kind of stuff. That's
Yeah.
kind of what I think. I'm always like, what would Joe think of this?
Yeah.
Like I know I'm Joe firsthand, but he doesn't really come off as super arrogant to me. He seems like he's a pretty cool guy, but I think he just kind of knows. He just shows that he knows what he's talking about, and he's more like, I know this for a fact. Like, don't try to tell me I'm wrong otherwise, because people are
Right.
obviously going to come at you and be like, "No, you're wrong." But it's like, if I'm going to trust anybody, it's going to be, Joe Bonamassa on something like a vintage guitar. Aside from the fact where he's like, the wood ages and it sounds better.
Yeah. Tone,
Whole
Tonewood,
different thing.
bro.
Bring up
Tonewood.
Tonewood. You want to make
But
another hour out of something? Let's bring up Tonewood.
the wood is the wood is aged and it feels better, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yep.
and you don't have fret sprouting issues anymore because the wood's completely dry. My
Yep.
my Telecaster over there, my made in Mexico Player Plus Telecaster, I have to file the frets every winter right now because
Wow.
it's just wet wood, dude. Like it's just not
Yeah.
dried out yet. And then eventually in the next like 4 years probably it'll be done shrinking, and it just is taking forever. They put a really thick finish on it and
Yep.
it sprouts every winter. So and it's really dry where I'm at too. So it takes a little while. But the
Right.
deluxe back here, the 78, I don't
Not a
it
problem.
the yeah, it's not like, I think what can happen is your fretboard binding can crack, but I don't have that
Mm,
issue at all. So, I mean,
right.
I just think the age does affect the guitar, but not in the way where they're like, "Ugh, it sounds better." Like, no,
Well, let me
you sound good because you're Joe Bonamassa and you could play an
right.
Epiphone and it'll be awesome.
Well, then let me ask you this: do you think that there's any kind of mental thing with how well a guitar plays versus what you hear, if that makes sense?
Um, I think if it plays nice, you sound better. So like if you connect and you are whatever style you're playing, like if you're a rhythm player and your guitar is it fits your hands and feels good. I just think
Yeah.
it's one of those things where like have you ever tried to play basketball in chucks? Like that's rough. You
Yeah.
have no traction, like you have no support, but you might not have more skill. But if you
Yeah.
swap those chucks out for a nice pair of Kobe's or something, you're gonna at least have better traction. So you're gonna be able to run faster. Your body will respond better. So I just think like your hands, this is a really nice neck. It's not super chonk, but it's
Yeah.
like it's meaty, like it's way more meaty than even like other SGs I've tried with the thin, really fast neck. Like this is
Yeah.
a nice neck. I connect really well with this guitar. I play really well on it. For me, but I'm not a better player. I just play better. if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, right, right. Well, I mean, if you're playing better, it can make you a better player. I mean, obviously, it's the difference between if you get one of those $79 guitars, like I was talking about earlier, that can't be set up and the action is terrible, or like that BC Rich I showed you yesterday.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it's just you can't do anything on it. It doesn't matter how good of a player you are, you're not
Yeah.
gonna be able to play it. So I agree with that. My thing is more like if you, it's almost like again if you know going in that you're gonna be playing a custom shop Fender Strat or a Squire, and they put one in your hand and it's the Squire, but they tell you that's the Fender Custom Shop and you can't see it and you're blindfolded and you play it and that's a really good playing Squire, you might be like, oh yeah, that's the Fender Custom Shop. That's great. And then when you do it reverse, I've always said an interesting experiment would be this. If it'll probably never happen, but it would be cool. You see, like Rob Chapman, Lee Anderton, Danish Pete, all of them
Yep.
doing the blindfold tests,
Yep.
via all them, and they'll do the Epiphone and Gibson thing, and they'll be like, "Oh, it's so close, but I can kind of feel something in this is the Epiphone," and people accuse them of cheating all the time. So I'm like, what if Gibson made a like if or what if Epiphone, real Epiphone,
Yeah.
made a guitar and put Gibson on the headstock so people would see that it is Gibson,
Yeah.
and then Gibson, or like you get a USA made Epiphone, made by Gibson or whatever,
Yeah.
and then you give them to people and get that in their mind, and then blindfold them and see if they're like, oh yeah, I can tell this one play. You know what I'm saying? It's like a psychological
So
thing, and
it's
then be
like
like
snake oil to a degree.
snake oil kind of thing. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
always thought that something like that would be kind of interesting. It'll never happen,
A psychological experiment.
but the psychological thing, because I really feel like the habit, or not the habit, the hobby or the career or whatever of playing guitar is all psychological. It really is. And once you break that barrier and you're like, this $200 guitar is fine,
Yeah. Yeah.
you open yourself up to a whole new world of like just enjoying the instrument.
Steve brings up a good point. He said some people say Fender did that recently.
Yes,
Those
exactly.
Fender bassline
Squire series.
guitars are basically
Yeah.
a Squire, and they're not. From what I can tell on what I've seen, I haven't played one, so full disclosure, this is an opinion based on the internet, which are the worst kind to have. But
Worst opinions.
but they look like uh, worse than the Squire
Yeah.
Classic Vibe series, and
Yeah.
they're a little
Now,
bit more than those. They cost a little more.
here's the big thing that I think a lot of people make with those and the argument that they give, because I've thought on this a lot.
Yeah.
The classic vibe is geared more towards the classic feel. Now you have the 50s and the 60s, right?
Mhm.
I've played both. I kind of prefer the 50s. If I'm being honest, I like the more curved or fretboard radius and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just me, which is weird. But either way, I think, and I'm not played the standard series either yet, but I think that that's maybe geared more towards like modern playability, maybe in a way.
Hmm.
So I think that's where people are kind of like, oh yeah, it's not just a Squire, but then it's like, well, if you want more modern stuff, again, you got the contemporary series, kind of. It's more
Hmm.
maybe more too modern, but even an Affinity
Yeah.
or like one of the old Squire standards. I
Affinity
played some of
put
those
out
Squire
those
standards.
flame tops not too long ago,
Yeah,
and they looked
and
awesome.
I've played some of those newer Affinities, and they're pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, going to like a Guitar Center and picking it up, it's probably not going to be set up worth a flip, but
Hmm.
it was pretty good.
But
So
there's so many options. Go like wrapping that into like the snake oil thing. So, do you think that people who buy a Chipson think that it's better than it is because it says Gibson
absolutely,
on the headstock?
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, and it's one of those things. Like I heard the other day, a psychological thing is when you clean your car, it drives better suddenly,
Sure.
right?
Sure. Sure.
You
Yeah.
take the time to clean it, and it's like, oh, it just performs so well. Like,
You
and it's
think
the
when
same
you
kind of thing.
change your oil that the car is like
It's a
running
brand
better
new
than it
car.
was 20 minutes ago. And it's not,
Exactly.
but it feels
So to
you're
me,
like,
it's
there
like
you go, girl.
you're looking at a guitar and you're like, oh, this looks really cool, da 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 da. And then you get to the top and it's Gibson. All of a sudden, it's like, oh yeah, I knew it was a good guitar, but it's like, it really all does come down to the psychological thing. It's what's on the headstock. It's the headstock shape. Same thing with the Fender, that standard series. People don't want the Squire, even though arguably you could say that the Squire is better than the standard series.
That's
in
what
my
I've been
opinion.
seeing.
Not
I
playing
mean,
wrong.
and hearing the audio, it's like, in the Fender Standard, they're using freaking not Alnico, but the what is it? Ceramic pickups. They're using
Mm.
ceramic. And it's like, dude, you put Alnico in the Squires. Like, you have them
Right.
already designed by Fender. They're already bought and paid for. Like, put those in. Like, you would almost buy the Fender for the headstock and then buy a Squire classic vibe and swap the pick guards just so you could get an
Yeah.
actual Fender guitar.
It'd be
It's
better. Yeah.
it's wild. But like Steve, he reviews those Jet guitars. Those are great. The
Mm.
Donners that you've reviewed are
Yep.
fantastic. These Harley Bentons are awesome. Like, this is basically a monstrosity at this point. I changed a bunch of stuff on it, but when I got it, the what are those called? The Tesla pickups, or no, not Tesla, the other brand of pickups they use, they were fine. I was just like,
Roswell.
Roswell's, they're great.
Yeah.
And you know, you you do not need to spend a ton of money to get a good cheap guitar, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like,
Not
there's
anymore anyway. I mean,
yeah,
it's
and it's like that because those brands exist, Firefly, Jet, Harley Benton, Epiphone, Squire, Classic Vibe series specifically. It's like, what is the actual point besides getting the right name on the headstock to buy the Chibson?
well, if you're in a band,
Yeah.
okay. I've heard this. I've heard a bunch of different arguments, and I think these are pretty good arguments. If you're in a
Okay.
band and you have, let's say, you have another guitar player, or even a bass player, let's throw a bass player in there. Bassist has like a really nice Dingwall something or other, like super expensive boutique guitar. Your other guitar player has, you know, PRS S2, some kind of real American thing, and then you turn up with a Squire. Doesn't matter if it's a classic vibe. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter if you've done all this mod stuff to it, because you have your bass player with a Dingwall and your other guitar player with a PRS. They're gonna look at you and be like, "You suck. You don't know, whatever." Your audience is not gonna care. You're
Right.
doing it to impress. We're all in this to impress each other. It's to impress other guitar players, and that is point blank, period, full stop. The truth, I think, is that we're not here to impress. If you give somebody, like, you put my wife in front of watching one of my videos and I'm over talking about, yeah, this has got the wood on this is kind of light and the pickup and the wraparound. She don't care.
Yeah.
She doesn't
Neither
care.
does mine.
Exactly. But I mean, you even get, somebody that might look like they listen to music. They don't care what kind of guitar you're playing.
No.
If they see you on stage, they don't care.
No, we
Now,
care.
obviously, if you're a guitar player in the crowd, without fail, when I go to a concert or someone is playing, I'm like, what are they playing? Oh, there's a
Gear hunting. Yes.
up there. There's a Fender in the back, like, and I'm telling my wife, like, look, they got that. And she's like, okay, I'll take your word for it.
Yeah. I learned
But
it
that's
from
what
my
I'm saying,
dad. He every time he took me to a show, he's like, "Let's go up to the front while nobody's up there and we'll look at the gear."
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
gas is hereditary, by the way, for sure.
I saw my favorite band one time. This was years ago. Favorite
Who
band,
is it?
Amberlin, by the way. Amberlin. Oh my
Oh,
God, love them.
nice.
Yeah. So I saw them, and one of their guitar players wasn't touring with them at the time. I don't know why. Can't remember why. But the dude got up there with a black Squire Telly with, it was a two humbucker.
The
I think
John
it was a
5 one.
It wasn't a John 5. It
Okay.
wasn't even the John
Okay.
5. It was just
Okay.
like a stock, and he killed it.
Yeah.
And I looked at him and I was like, he's playing a freaking Squire. Like, that's
Yeah.
crazy, And it killed it. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? Everybody else in the crowd jumping around having a good time. Nobody cared. I may
No.
have been the only one in that crowd that cared.
If it sounds good, it is good, man. I
If
mean,
it sounds
that's
good, it is good. Exactly.
yeah.
And that goes
But
for amps too. People talk about speakers and stuff all the time. It's like some record better, some don't. But it's like, if it sounds good, it sounds good.
yeah, I mean, I've
Talking to
played.
you,
I'm gonna do an episode on all the amps I've had. I got some pictures that my dad sent me of some of the old amps that I had. So I started on, that one that PV just re-released, the Josh Homme. Was it the
Yes.
Bandit or whatever
It's
one?
the Bandit.
Or yeah. So, or Yeah, I think that's right. Anyway, that's what I had. My dad gave me that when I was like, 13 or 14 years old. And
Yeah.
I started on that. And, I have this progression and I've had tubes and line six stuff and all that. And now I'm on this Fender GTX 100. And I'm just like, the modeling is so good right now. I don't
Mhm.
play in a band. I can't crank a tube amp in my house probably.
Yeah.
Like, it's like this is the way for me for sure
Right.
because it just works perfectly. Yes, Steve, you do have the power. You have been modded, sir. Um, but Steve modded me on his channel a couple weeks ago, so I returned the favor. We
Return the
all need
favor.
more responsibility anyway, but
Yeah.
um yeah, like it works really well for me. And it's like we just said, if it sounds good, it is good. Who cares if you have a Alnico blue or a cream back or a greenback or I mean that Black Star, why don't you chug that Black Star real quick, dude?
Yeah. I mean, this is just turned up, like I said, just through the room.
Right.
Like, I don't know how
Yeah.
good that sounds, but I mean, in the room, I mean, that's a HT5, so it's not like the loudest thing in the world. That's probably about halfway up, maybe, but
Dude, Black
sounds
Star
great.
stuff is so sick. I wanted to try
Yeah.
one of those debut,
Yeah.
things, the 50. At some point, I may get one, but they look awesome and they sound sick on the internet. I bet they sound good in person too.
Yeah, and that's the one thing you got to consider too. Through YouTube, they compress the hell out of everything, so it's
Yeah.
like, you know, and that's always one thing that's hard for me to convey across. Is like, it sounds really good, I promise, but it is what it is.
Yeah, totally. Any business to attend to? You got any plugs today that you wanna throw out there? You got a new video up today that everybody should go check out?
Yep.
Um
So, been working with a lot of brands recently. I've been working with Pogo Lab, which is I think Lakato. There, it's a very confusing thing, but
Is it
they
like their
sent me their.
boutique style for Locato kinda thing?
I guess. I mean, really, at the end of the day, they're just kind of another like small pedal company that does like a bunch of the same kind of clones. But they have this series called the RS series, and they had reached out to me and asked if I wanted to check out the chorus pedal, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll look at that. And I was really impressed with the chorus pedal. I've said that multiple times because it's two knobs and it's so versatile. Like all the way over here is like this effect, all the way over here, and if
Wild,
you just
yeah.
move it a little bit, it's crazy. So, I reached out and told them, I said, well, let's send you the rest of the series. So it's a series of five
Nice.
pedals and did them all, kind of put them through their paces and stuff. And they're all really, really good. So I have all of those coming out over the next few days. I have a Sonic Cake Wah comparison video that I'm doing.
Oh, nice.
It'll come out kind of in the middle of all that.
Okay.
And then I have another one scheduled. Another Donner video coming out for a
Nice.
new release that
The
they
Donner series has
released.
been wildly successful for you. People love that stuff.
Yeah, people
Yeah.
do, and Donner's kind of done a good job of making a name for themselves, I think,
Mhm.
on the internet because people have. I think it's more of a general mixed bag of opinions on that, but I mean, I think that they're great. I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
truthfully, I think that they really are fantastic instruments. Like I've got four of them right now. I did sell off the lower end ones just because they were kind of repetitive and I really didn't need them.
Yeah.
But there was nothing wrong with them. They're great for beginners, with the exception of maybe the really really cheap one. But you're able to fix that if you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Higher end stuff, and then this new one I got, absolutely perfect.
Just
Great for
sick,
anybody.
like, probably on
So
par with, like, those Harley Benton, fusion
absolutely,
guitars.
yeah, absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. Absolutely great.
Um, I I bought a little Donner kid-sized guitar for my
I
4-year-old,
remember you saying that.
and, oh, my old man digs your flamingos, by the way. Um,
Thank you, old man.
um, but yeah, like, I have so my dad and I actually, did some work. We bought one of those mini Epiphone Flying Vs for my older son, and then and then, his brother needs to have a guitar too. So I bought him a red Donner Strat with a single pickup, and that thing stays in tune. So you're
Really?
talking about like a $65 kid guitar that you can tune to E standard, because like the Flying V won't stay in tune. You have to tune that to G standard to get it to
Right.
stay
Yeah.
in tune because the scale's
Right.
too short. But like that Donner stays in tune. And frick, man, I plugged it into my amp at one point and it sounds pretty good for like a
That's
tiny
amazing.
little guitar. So yeah, that's my only experience really with Donner. But yeah, my dad Bug Tussle has a few Donner products and has been pretty impressed with them over the years too. I just think they started at some point and then it just grew at like elevate. Like, did you know you could get these pedals for $29? And then, people catch on to that, and people like you get relationships with them and do great demo videos, and it does sell product, man. I mean, it works, but the thing about it is it's not fake. Like, it's actually good. So
Yeah. And that's
I
what I
think
try to convey. It's like, it's I know a lot of people kind of don't trust influencers, or like, I don't call myself an influencer by any means. I hate
sure.
when people say that, like, but you are. It's like, whether I am, don't call me that. I get
Yeah.
the stigma behind people not trusting people that are paid to say something, but like, you could give me $1 million and say, "Hey, say this is good," and I'm like, "Look, I value more what my audience and what other people think of my opinion versus what you're paying me." Like, I know that sounds corny. I know that sounds maybe cheesy or whatever, but
Yeah.
and at the end of the day, I really don't care what people think about me to begin with. But
No, I
if I'm
mean,
projecting myself and I have an image
yeah,
and I'm saying, "Hey, this is good" or whatever, like, I want you to look at me and say, "Yeah, I could trust him because he's not lied to me."
right. You're putting your
So
name on something.
exactly, I'm
And
putting
if
my
you're
seal of
any kind of
approval.
a person where your name's important to you, then
Right.
it's just like that video you did where like, this is not good. That's
Yeah.
okay. They're not all going to be great, but
Yeah.
you can still say like this one wasn't good, and we can do better. And honestly, I think constructive criticism of receiving a bad product is probably more valuable to the company than you going on there and lying about it.
Oh yeah,
So
absolutely.
I think that's a win-win. Well, that's cool, man. I'm looking forward to the thanks, Steve. Have a good day, buddy. I'm looking forward to the run of Electric Flamingo videos coming up here. And I, we talked about this a little yesterday. I kind of record in real time when I can, but I have a couple videos. One is going to be on this guy right here. Maybe I can. So that
The
is
Dan Electrode.
the Dan electrode, and you can adjust and starve a pedal. So like the JHS Vulture pedal
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
where you can starve, but this is just a 9-volt plug-in. My dad gave me this when he was visiting, and you can't see it, but there's tiny little numbers. So you can go from 9-volt to 0 on that. So I was going to plug
Huh.
in a fuzz pedal and try and achieve that like starved fuzz pedal sound with it.
Right.
And then maybe test out a couple of distortion pedals. So that'll be a fun little tinker video.
Yeah.
And then this fabric here, this is not, it seems not guitar related, but I saw an amp company that was doing fabric grill cloths.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, maybe this GTX 100 could use a little, pizzazz or whatever. So I'm going to do a video where I take the amp partially apart and get the grill off and recover it with that. Uh, I think it's like a Southwestern Native American fabric, and just see how it looks. And I can leave the original grill cloth on, but I just thought it would
It's
be
also a
like
good video idea to be like, if you want to change your grill cloth, like, here's how you
right.
do it.
I can
You show
show
them how to
people how to like take them away, take it apart and change your grill cloth. And then I belong to a GTX 100 Facebook group, and I figured I could post the video in there, and, it's kind of like I bought some, uh, turquoise spray paint, and I was thinking about painting the body, but I think I'm gonna start with just the grill cloth and then see how I feel about that. But so I've got some real nerdy tinkering videos that I intend to do, in the near future, and, um yeah, I think that's it. I'm out of, pedals to demo at the moment, but, at some point I'll and then I wanna do that amp video as well where I talk about all my amps and talk about
Yeah.
tube versus solid state and, how far solid state has come because it's come a long way.
God, yeah, it really
Well, you've been
has.
touching on that with your multi-effects pedal videos lately.
Yeah, I mean, all of them have been like really, really good. I mean,
Yeah.
like I've been honestly been surprised, and it's just like the modeling is like obviously it's not going to be, you look at like a Kemper or something like those are like up here, but I mean these are great for like 300 bucks,
Yeah.
200 bucks, even under $100 sometimes. I mean,
Yeah.
for anybody wanting to do that, it's just like great to get into it.
And it's way better than that Digitech stuff we had back in the day.
Oh
I
God.
had that blue and silver Digitech multi-effects pedal, and it just I mean, it was cool. I got it, like, with a gift card to, Guitar Center. I got
Yeah.
a gift card on at Christmas to Guitar Center. I went and bought that thing, and I played with it, but honestly, where things were at that point, it was more detrimental to how I felt about pedals than it was good. Like, it
Yeah.
made me not wanna try pedals, and I was like, "You know what? It just sounds better if I just plug straight into the amp and crank this thing?" So I
Right.
just did
Yeah.
that forever. I gigged like that. I had a 2-channel, like, Marshall, valve state amp, and it was, like, clean and dirty, and that was it, and I had fun. I got by on that, but, now that I've discovered all these pedals, the Line 6 Pod Go really started it for me. So multi-effects is so good now that it can get you into, like, analog fuzz
Yeah.
pedals and stuff like that?
Right. Yeah, because I mean they've got the models of all that kind of stuff. I mean, there's like effects that to show you just kind of maybe how out of touch I am. I don't know how recently this is or whatever. Have you ever heard of a shimmer reverb?
I think I have something like that on my Line 6. It's called, like, the Glitz or something
Something
like
like
that, but
that.
yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
I heard that for the first time in it was either my new X or the Matrobox 2 or whatever it is. And I was like, "What is this?" It was so cool.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Man, I'm missing out on all this kind of stuff because like I said, I don't really even to this day, like the only reason I have any pedals is because I was like, "Hey, you want to look at this?" Yeah, sure. That's it. I have really no interest in maybe an overdrive, maybe a reverb and a delay, and that's about it.
Yeah, I'm the same way, dude. My first experience with a fuzz pedal was on my GTX 100 before I got my Pod Go. It has, like, 2 or 3, like, fuzz models in it, and so it was a model. Like, that was my first experience. Now I have, like, 3 actual fuzz pedals because the model was so good. I was like
Right.
and the pedals are, like, they're better, they're
Right.
they're clearly better. However, in the Line 6, the fuzz models, I can't tell you that the pedal is much better. Like,
Yeah.
you can't I did a fuzz video. If anybody watches a replay of this, you can go back and check out my fuzzathon video 2025, and I do all 3 of my physical ones and then 3 or 4 different models on the Line 6, and it's basically indiscernible via the internet, like, via recording,
Right.
like, you cannot tell. They act exactly the same way. It's crazy. So, um,
Yeah.
nice, man. Well, again, thanks for, joining me. I know we didn't have huge viewership, but I'm sure as the episodes go on and we get better at our
All
craft
great
here.
things start small. That's okay. We'll
Yeah,
get there.
man. That's right. So, I'll try and get better at, like, promoting, when we're gonna do it, and, and then we'll figure out getting this on your channel so it's available on both. And
Well, now that we kind of have the kinks worked out as far as like being able to talk and hear ourselves,
yeah, yeah,
from both the
that was a
devices.
hurdle.
Next time we'll
But
figure out how to get guitar sounds going, but that's a whole other thing. But yeah,
that's right.
I've had a great time doing it. It was fun.
Yeah, man. Me too. I appreciate it. And it's really fun to just get on here and nerd out
Oh yeah.
with you. And I've been, like as you know, I've been watching your channel from, we got it out the mud over there on Electric Flamingo. And so I am proud of your tenacity. You've broken through a little bit here, and I think you're probably going to be hitting 5K pretty soon, don't you think?
Considering I hit 4K the other day and I'm already at like almost
You almost there?
4,030. I mean,
Yeah.
it's climbing slowly but surely.
Well,
I
we'll
think
have
we're
to
probably
do
gonna
a
hit the
celebratory 5K podcast on one of
Yeah.
these at some point.
I will say this, I guess just for the record, it's in the works, but because of me hitting 4K, I did have a company recognize that and they're gonna sponsor a giveaway coming up
My
soon.
man, that's awesome.
So more
That's
details on
sick.
that will come as it unfolds. But
Very cool, dude. Well, congrats on all the success. Thanks for joining me and everybody that stopped in. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next time on Tone Deep with Jonathan and Sean.
go take care.
All right, brother.